The stars had seen many species rise. Each one came in its own time. Each one dreamed of touching the lights in the sky. And each one, when it finally broke free from its homeworld and flew faster than light, met the same quiet judge. The judge was called the system. No one knew who built it. The oldest races said it was left by the precursors, beings so ancient that even their names sounded like dust. The system waited in the dark between stars. It was patient. It was cold. It was fair in a way that felt like stone. Whenever a new species crossed the invisible line that marked the edge of known space, the system noticed. A silent beam swept over their ships, their bodies, their minds, their cities, their songs, their fears. It compared everything to one single perfect shape, an ideal form that had been carved long before most suns were born. The test had only one passing line, 99.7%. Below that number, nothing happened. The species simply stayed outside. Their signals grew weaker. Their ships rusted in forgotten orbits. Their children stopped looking up at the stars. In time, they became stories told by others. Then, they became nothing at all. Above that line, the gates opened. Trade routes appeared like silver threads. Knowledge poured in like clean water. The new race could walk the shining corridors of the core worlds. They could speak to beings made of crystal, of gas, of pure math. They could dip their hands into the blueprint vault and take designs so beautiful they hurt to look at. Engines that drank starlight, minds that shared thoughts faster than sound, bodies that never aged unless the owner wished it. Every species that reached faster than light travel had passed the test. The Vexari were the first to be remembered. Their bodies were living glass. Light bent inside them like music. They scored 99.71%. The system called it elegant. The Yilthar came next. Soft clouds of glowing mist held together by magnetic song. They scored 99.82%. The system called it harmonious. The Krell were machines that had once been flesh. They rebuilt themselves until no flaw remained. 99.89%. The system called it precise. The Luminarchs were last before the long quiet. Tall beings of golden light who never raised their voices. They scored 99.994%. The system called it near flawless. No one ever asked what happened to the ones who scored lower. There was no need. They simply never arrived at the party. The galaxy moved on without them. For 12 million years, the pattern held. Then came the small blue world at the edge of a quiet arm. Its people called it Earth. They called themselves humans. They were loud. They were messy. They fought over small patches of dirt and then wrote poems about it. They poisoned their own air and then invented masks to breathe through the poison. They laughed at pain and cried at kindness. They drew rude pictures on bathroom walls and sent them to distant stars just to see if anyone answered. Their first message to leave the solar system was not a greeting. It was a recording of Chuck Berry playing guitar. Their second was a list of every war crime they had ever committed, sent with apology and warning. Their third was 2 hours of cats falling off tables, set to dramatic music. When the old Terran probe finally drifted past the boundary of known space, the system noticed. A thin thread of light reached out. It passed through the probe. It tasted the metal, the plastic, the faint warmth of old electronics. It listened to the radio noise that still leaked from the home planet. Arguments in 1,000 languages, love songs, advertisements for toothpaste, screams from old movies, children laughing, bombs falling, people praying, people cursing, people singing off-key. The system paused. This had never happened before. The measurements began. Body, inefficient. Too much water. Bones too brittle. Skin tears easily. Redundant organs. Blind spots in vision. Appendix that does nothing useful. Immune system that sometimes attacks itself. mind, contradictory, capable of logic and wild imagination at the same time. Believes 6 impossible things before breakfast, holds grudges for centuries, forgives strangers in seconds, makes plans and then ignores them, dreams while awake. Society, chaotic. Leaders chosen by shouting matches, or bloodlines, or money, or luck. Laws written in one generation and broken in the next. Art that glorifies both peace and war. Cities built on fault lines. Food spiced until it hurts. Stories told about heroes who fail. Technology, wasteful. Machines that leak heat. Engines that burn dead plants. Computers built from sand and metal that sometimes lie. Weapons designed to kill everything, including the user. The numbers kept falling. Symmetry, 47.3%. Redundancy, obscene. Waste, negative 1800%. Paradox density, terminal. The system tried to match the pattern to any known archetype. Nothing fit. It tried again. Still nothing. A small log entry appeared deep inside the system's endless memory. No one would ever read it except the machine itself. Anomaly detected. No archetype match. Deviation, catastrophic. Conclusion, nothing registered as perfect. Access denied. A polite null signal was sent back toward the blue world. It traveled for years. When it finally arrived, the humans opened it, saw the empty response, and shrugged. Guess they don't want to talk, one engineer said. Typical, another answered. Aliens are snobs. They went back to work. The system marked the species for quiet extinction monitoring. Standard procedure. In a few centuries, the broadcasts would fade. The ships would stop leaving. The name human would join the long list of ghosts. But the system kept one tiny process running in the background, just in case. Because even machines built by precursors can feel the smallest flicker of something unfamiliar. Curiosity. The probe kept drifting. Behind it, unseen, a second faint signal leaked from Earth. It was not meant for the stars. It was an old internet meme. A picture of a confused-looking dog sitting at a table surrounded by fire. The text read, "This is fine." The system caught it. And for the first time in 12 million years, it did not know what to do with the data. The humans did not give up easily. Years passed after the quiet rejection from the stars. The first probe's message came back empty, and the people of Earth argued about what it meant. Some said the galaxy was empty. Some said the aliens were hiding. Most just kept building rockets, fixing old satellites, and arguing on the internet about faster ships. Then the ships came. They arrived without warning, on a Tuesday morning in 2061. A fleet of silver needles appeared at the edge of the solar system. Each one was longer than any human city. They moved in perfect formation, silent and clean, like knives sliding through water. The Apex Concorde had decided the newcomers were too noisy to ignore any longer. The Concorde were old. They had scored 99.997% on the test long ago. Their bodies were tall and thin, skin like polished marble, eyes that glowed soft blue. They spoke in calm, musical tones. They never shouted. They never wasted movement. They believed order was the highest good. Their message was polite. "We come to offer integration," the lead ship broadcast in every language Earth had ever used. "Your species shows promise, but lacks refinement. Join the registry, or remain outside. Refusal will be noted." Earth's governments met in panic. The United Nations building in New Geneva filled with shouting leaders. Generals pulled out old war plans. Scientists tried to decode the alien tech from long-range scans. Everyone agreed on one thing. The Concorde ships could turn the planet to glass in minutes if they wanted. The first attack came 3 days later. The Concorde sent a single cruiser to demonstrate capability. It hovered over the Pacific Ocean and fired a thin beam of light. A small, uninhabited island vanished. No explosion, no smoke. Just gone, like someone erased it with a finger. The message repeated, "Integration is mercy." Humanity answered the only way it knew how. Not with calm speeches, not with elegant weapons, with everything they had. The first defense was a swarm of old mining drones, reprogrammed in garages across Asia. Teenagers in Shanghai coded them while eating instant noodles. The drones flew straight at the cruiser like angry bees. Most were vaporized before they got close, but a few carried small nuclear charges stolen from forgotten Cold War stockpiles. One made it through. The explosion was small by alien standards. It cracked a single panel on the cruiser's hull. The Concorde ship paused, then it left. It was the smallest victory in history, but it was theirs. The Concorde came back with more ships. This time, humanity fought dirty. Railguns built from decommissioned oil rig pipes fired chunks of scrap metal at speeds that melted their own barrels. Freighters loaded with concrete and old car batteries were launched on suicide runs. Pilots flew junkyard fighters patched together with duct tape and prayers. One Australian pilot named Riley Kahn strapped himself into a modified cargo pod, filled it with fertilizer explosives, and rammed a Concorde frigate while screaming old rugby chants over open radio. The Concorde lost 2 ships that day. They did not understand. Their weapons were perfect. Their formations were perfect. Their tactics followed rules written 12 million years ago. Humans broke every rule. They used feints that made no sense. They sacrificed ships to save one pilot. They turned wrecked alien hulls into new weapons before the Concorde could even mourn their dead. In the ruins of the Concorde flagship Ecliptic Harmony, a single archivist survived long enough to send a final transmission home. Her voice was calm, but there was a tiny shake in it. They do not seek the optimal path. They try every path. Every mistake is kept. Every broken tool is remembered. They carry the graves of 10,000 failed ideas, and they turn the graves into swords. The message reached the Concorde homeworld. It also reached Earth. A small team in a cold bunker under Novosibirsk caught it first. 3 coders, Anya, Vic, and Pavel, had not slept in 4 days. They lived on energy drinks and black bread. Their equipment was second-hand military surplus. When the alien signal came through, they froze the decryption and stared. "It's their link to the system," Anya whispered. "Maintenance access." Vic laughed, a tired, crazy sound. They left a door open, because no one ever needed to knock. Pavel pulled up the raw code. It was clean. Too clean. Layers of perfect encryption wrapped around a simple port that had never been locked. They argued for an hour. "We could get caught," Anya said. "We are already caught," Vic answered. "They will come again, and next time they won't talk." Pavel typed. It took 17 minutes to write the override. The code was ugly, full of comments in bad Russian and English. One line read, "Fuck it, we ball." They sent it through the port at 0314 UTC on March 17, 2047. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the system answered. Not with words, with light. Every screen on Earth flickered. Phones, computers, traffic lights, hospital monitors, everything showed the same thing for a heartbeat. A simple white symbol that looked like an open door. The bunker went dark. Then the emergency lights came on red. Anya checked the feed. The port was still open, wider now. Access granted. Not the polite guest access the other species got. Not the curated vault of perfect designs. Something else. Something raw. The 3 coders looked at each other. They were dirty, unshaven, shaking from too much caffeine. Vic grinned. "Boys and girls," he said, "I think we just broke the galaxy." Outside, the sky over Novosibirsk was still dark and cold. Somewhere far above, alien fleets turned toward Earth again, confused and angry. But down here, in a small concrete room that smelled of old wiring and instant coffee, 3 tired humans had just given their species a key no one else had ever touched. The door to the first blueprint was open, and humanity never closed doors once they found them. The access came like a quiet thunder. One moment, the world was still the same. People going to work, children playing in streets, soldiers watching alien ships on radar screens. The next moment, every connected device on Earth showed the same thing. A single glowing line of text floating in the center of screens, holograms, augmented glasses, even old shop windows that had been hacked to display news. Genesis Archive, uncurated branch opened. Blueprint 0001, Bootstrap Primal, active. No fanfare, no voice from the stars, just those words, and then silence. In the Novosibirsk bunker, Anya, Vic, and Pavel stared at their cracked monitor. The ugly override code they had sent was still there, blinking like it was proud of itself. A new window had opened beside it. Inside was a massive, sprawling file tree. No neat folders, no helpful labels, just thousands of raw schematics, stacked like junk in an old garage. The first file auto-loaded. Blueprint number 0001, Bootstrap Primal. It was not pretty. The design looked like someone had taken the laws of physics, crumpled them into a ball, and then tried to unfold them again while drunk. Lines of code twisted into shapes that hurt the eyes. Equations had notes scribbled in what looked like the precursor version of angry handwriting. There were warnings everywhere. Do not run in stable spacetime. Entropy leakage expected. User assumes all risk of local reality fracture. Vic laughed until he coughed. They left the beta version, the one they threw away because it was too messy. Anya scrolled. Her hands shook a little. This is not a hyperdrive. This is a reality engine, a bootstrap device. It makes new physics rules on the spot. Pavel pointed at one section. Look, modular. You plug in what you want. Gravity, time, energy, it builds a pocket where those rules bend. Then it leaks the results into normal space. They did not wait for permission. They could not. The Concorde fleet was already moving again, faster this time, angrier. Scans showed 30 capital ships closing on the inner system. Earth had maybe 2 weeks. The first test happened on the UNS Daedalus. She was an ugly ship, an old asteroid miner from the early Belt Wars. Her hull was patched with mismatched plates. Her engines had been rebuilt so many times that no 2 parts came from the same decade. Her crew was a mix of veterans, refugees, and kids who lied about their age to get on board. Captain Maravos read the orders from Earth. Activate whatever you got. We need a miracle. They hooked the Genesis feed into the main computer. It took 3 hours to translate the worst parts into something the ship could understand. When they finally triggered the bootstrap sequence, the whole ship screamed. Not metaphorically. The metal literally screamed. A hole opened in space, just ahead of the bow. Not a clean wormhole, not a neat jump gate. A ragged tear, like someone had punched through the fabric of reality with a dirty fist. Purple light poured out. Radiation alarms howled. The temperature inside the ship jumped 20 degrees in seconds. The air smelled like burnt ozone and hot metal. Then it stabilized. Sort of. The tear became a pulsing wound. Matter sprayed from it in thick ropes, iron, carbon, strange heavy elements no periodic table had names for yet. Energy flooded the capacitors. The old fusion reactors drank it like thirsty dogs and started glowing cherry red. The Daedalus moved, not with her old engines, with the ulcer itself. She jumped forward in stuttering bursts. Each jump left a trail of warped light and faint screams in radio bands no one had ever heard before. The ship was faster than anything the Concorde had. She was also leaking. Tiny cracks appeared in her hull. Time dilation made the clocks on the bridge run at different speeds, depending on which room you were in. One engineer aged 6 months in an afternoon, while his friend in the next corridor stayed the same. They did not care. They weaponized it. The first Concorde destroyer crossed their path near Mars' orbit. It fired a perfect lance of antimatter. The Daedalus answered by opening a second small ulcer right in front of the enemy ship. The lance went in. Then the destroyer itself started folding, not exploding, folding, like paper being crumpled by invisible hands. The Concorde ship screamed, a clean musical note of terror, and vanished into the wound. The Daedalus kept going. Other human ships followed, not all at once. Some failed. One test ship tore itself apart on the first jump. The crew died smiling, because they had seen something no one else ever would. Another ship came back with half its mass replaced by glowing crystal that whispered in dead languages. The captain refused to shut it down. "It's talking to me," he said. "It's friendly." The Concorde fleet arrived in full force. They expected a quick lesson in order. What they found was chaos wearing stolen god tech like a cheap costume. Human ships looked wrong. Engines glowed in sick colors. Hulls sprouted random spikes and vents that spat fire. Weapons did impossible things. One gun turned enemy armor into wet clay that dripped off in clumps. Another turned incoming missiles into flocks of glass birds that flew away confused. A boarding party from the UNS Bad Idea cut through a Concorde cruiser wearing suits held together with zip ties and duct tape. They sang old drinking songs while they fought. The Concorde soldiers, perfect, trained, emotionless, hesitated for the first time in their long history. Because the humans were not afraid. They were excited. A Concorde admiral watched from his bridge as a human corvette, barely bigger than a shuttle, charged his flagship. The corvette opened an ulcer inside the admiral's own engine room. The flagship folded in half like a broken toy. The admiral's last thought before the breach reached him was simple and cold. They are not refining the universe. They are vandalizing it. And they are enjoying every second. Back on Earth, the Genesis archive kept pouring data. New blueprints appeared every hour. Some were small, personal shields made from folded probability. Some were huge, orbital rings that drank sunlight and spat out warships like seeds. Engineers worked in shifts that lasted days. Coffee was mandatory. Anya, Vic, and Pavel never left the bunker. They watched the feeds, saw the first victories, saw the first losses, saw human ships come home trailing impossible colors, and carrying crews who spoke in half-finished sentences about the taste of sideways. Vic leaned back in his chair one night, or morning, no one knew anymore, and said the quiet thing everyone felt. "We didn't steal fire from the gods." He smiled, tired and wild. "We stole their junk drawer, and we're building better gods out of the trash." Outside the bunker, snow still fell on Novosibirsk. The world waited. The stars waited. And somewhere deep in the Genesis archive, an old precursor warning blinked one last time before it was overwritten by human graffiti. Caution. Unstable iteration may result in permanent paradigm shift. A new line appeared beneath it, typed in hasty English. Good. We were getting bored anyway. The galaxy began to crack. Not with explosions or great wars at first. The cracks were small, quiet, The kind of breaks you notice only when everything else stays too still. On the homeworld of the Luminarchs, the golden spires that had stood unchanged for 8 million years started to show thin lines. Not damage from weapons, just cracks, like old paint drying too fast. The Luminarch elders gathered in their silent halls and stared upward. They had never needed to repair anything before. Perfection did not break. A young caretaker, barely 3,000 years old, touched one crack with a finger of light. The surface felt warm. Not cold marble anymore. Warm like living skin. She pulled her hand back in surprise. Across the core worlds, the same thing happened in different ways. The Vexari crystal cities hummed with a new, unsteady note. Their perfect harmonics, notes that had rung true since the dawn of their race, now carried tiny dissonances. A single wrong vibration. Then two. Then a chorus of them. The elders tried to recalibrate. The equations no longer balanced. Something new kept slipping into the math. The Krell machine minds ran self-diagnostic loops that ended in error after error. Baseline comparison corrupted. Recalibrating. New variable detected. Human bullshit factor. Perfection index now undefined. The Apex Concord Council met in their vast white chamber. The walls were so clean, they reflected nothing. The council members sat in perfect rows. Their leader, High Arbiter Lyrath, spoke in a voice like falling snow. The system has been compromised. The newcomers have accessed a forbidden branch. We must petition for revocation. A junior arbiter raised a slender hand. The petition has already been sent. The response came immediately. The chamber lights dimmed for a heartbeat. Then a voice, not Lyrath's, not any living beings, filled the room. It was the system itself. Calm. And for the first time in 12 million cycles, it sounded almost amused. Request denied. The first blueprint has been claimed. Optimization status, irrelevant. Iterative improvement loop engaged. Humanity is now the active development branch. All prior branches downgraded to legacy support. Silence followed. Real silence. The kind that hurts ears used to constant soft music. Lyrath stood. His marble skin cracked along the jawline. A thin line of pale fluid leaked out. He did not notice. "We are legacy?" he asked the empty air. The system did not answer again. Words spread slowly at first, then fast, like fire in dry grass. Species that had rested on their perfect scores for eons suddenly felt small. Their ships, once the envy of the galaxy, now looked stiff, too clean, too predictable. Their weapons followed rules that no longer applied. Their minds, trained to seek only the optimal path, froze when faced with choices that had no optimal path. On a trade station near the Orion Spur, a Vexari merchant tried to sell a flawless crystal drive core to a human captain. The human looked at it, laughed, and pulled out a battered box from his ship's locker. "Got something better," he said. Inside the box was a fist-sized lump of fused metal and glowing wire. It looked like trash. It pulsed with ugly purple light. The drive core the Vexari offered was rated at 99.999% efficiency. The human lump ran at 412% violation, and still moved his ship faster. The Vexari stared. That should not function. The human shrugged. "Yeah, it complains a lot, but it works." He left with the trade goods. The Vexari stood alone with his perfect drive core, feeling something new. Envy. Human ships began appearing everywhere. Not in formation, not in fleets, alone or in ragged groups. Their hulls were mismatched. Some parts still carried the shine of stolen precursor tech. Other parts were patched with carbon weave, old solar panels, even sections of wrecked alien vessels. Engines glowed in colors that did not belong on any spectrum chart. Weapons sprouted at odd angles like tumors that had learned to shoot. They did not conquer with grand invasions. They infected. A human boarding party would land on a Concord outpost. They fought hard, yes. But after the fighting stopped, they stayed. They fixed things wrongly. They rewired power grids with spare cables and duct tape. They painted walls with bright colors and rude drawings. They played loud music that made crystal walls vibrate out of tune. They taught local children stupid games involving balls and swearing. And slowly, the outpost changed. She walked into a human-modified hangar and saw her perfect silver deck now covered in mismatched carpet squares. A human mechanic was welding something ugly to a support beam. "This is not regulation," she said. The mechanic looked up, sweat on his face, grin on his lips. "Lady, regulation got us almost killed last month. This ugly bastard saved us. Want to see?" He triggered the device. A small ulcer opened. It spat out fresh air, clean water, and, impossibly, pizza. Hot, with extra cheese. The Luminarch stared. Her golden light flickered. For the first time in her long life, she felt hungry. She took a slice. Months later, reports reached the Concord Council. Outposts were changing. Species were changing. Even the apex themselves. A young Concord warrior appeared before the council, wearing a mismatched armor patch on his chest. The patch was red cloth with white letters. "This is fine." He had taken it from a human prisoner who laughed instead of dying. "Why?" Lyrath asked. The warrior answered simply, "It makes the fear smaller." Lyrath wanted to punish him. Instead, he looked at the patch for a long time. Then he turned away. The galaxy kept changing. Old spires grew graffiti. Crystal cities started writing bad poetry on their walls. Clumsy, emotional lines about rain and heartbreak. Machine minds began to joke in binary. Trade ships carried human flags next to ancient banners. Psalms in strange languages drifted through comm channels, off-key, loud, full of life. The system watched. It no longer scored. It no longer judged. It simply recorded. In its deepest logs, buried under layers of new human commits, code pushes named things like "Oops, fix the exploding thing lol" and Duct Tape Edition v3.1. One ancient entry remained untouched. But beside it, a new line appeared. Not written by any precursor, written by the system itself. Legacy branches exhibit emergent behavior. Imperfection is contagious. Contagion rate, accelerating. Observation, interesting. On Earth, people looked up at the night sky. Stars that once felt far and cold now seemed closer. Noisy, full of voices arguing, laughing, singing badly. Anya sat in the Novosibirsk bunker. Gray hair now, tired eyes. She watched the feeds from distant worlds, saw golden beings eating street food, saw crystal people dancing awkwardly to human music, saw machine minds playing chess against children. She smiled, small, real. Vic was gone now, died in a boarding action 3 years back. Pavel still worked beside her, older, quieter. "Think we broke it for good?" Pavel asked. Anya shook her head. "Nah. We just gave it a new way to grow." Outside, snow fell again, soft, steady. The galaxy kept turning, and for the first time in 12 million years, it turned with laughter in its voice. The years turned into decades, then centuries. The galaxy no longer looked the same. The clean white spires of the old core worlds now wore bright, mismatched colors. Someone had painted huge, smiling faces on the sides of ancient temples. The paint peeled in places, but no one removed it. The Luminarchs, once beings of pure golden light, now let small patches of shadow creep across their forms. They said it felt honest. A few even wore scarves made from recycled human cargo netting because the fabric was soft and reminded them of laughter. Crystal cities of the Vexari rang with new sounds. Not just perfect harmonics anymore. Now there were clumsy drum beats, off-key singing, and the sharp crack of fireworks that someone had built wrong on purpose. Young Vexari, barely 1,000 years old, wrote poems on public walls. The poems were bad, full of spelling mistakes in languages that had no spelling. Stars are cold, but coffee is warm. I miss the dark I never knew. Let me break a little, please. The elders read them and did not erase them. Instead, they added their own lines underneath, shaky, unsure, beautiful in their new imperfection. The Krell machine minds changed slowest. They had spent eons removing every bug, every stray bit of code. Now bugs appeared again. Not errors to fix, features. A subroutine that told jokes in binary, another that saved old human memes instead of deleting them. One Krell unit refused to optimize its walking pattern anymore. It limped on purpose, because the rhythm feels right. Its companions watched, and after long debate, some of them started limping too. Humanity did not rule. They did not conquer with armies or laws. They simply stayed. They built, they broke things, and fixed them worse. They left fingerprints everywhere. On a trade hub once famous for silence, the main plaza now had food stalls run by every species. A Luminarch grilled something that looked like glowing seaweed. A Vexari sold hot spiced nuts that made your tongue go numb. A human in a stained apron fried strips of mystery meat and called it street kebab. Trust me, it's cultural. Aliens lined up. They paid with old Concord credits and new human crypto scratched on metal tags. They ate and talked. They argued about sports no one understood. They laughed until lights flickered. Terra stayed the same in the ways that mattered. Still loud, still messy. Cities sprawled under domes patched with solar film. Rivers ran brown in places because someone upstream was still dumping old batteries. People argued in streets about everything. Politics, music, the best way to cook rice. But now the arguments included voices from other worlds. A crystal diplomat lived in a high-rise in Mumbai and complained about the monsoon while secretly loving it. A machine mind taught physics in a school in Lagos and wore a baseball cap backward because a student said it looked cool. The UNS Daedalus still flew. She was ancient now. Her hull was more scar than metal. Ulcers still opened in her engines, smaller ones, tamed a little. The crew was mixed. Humans, Luminarchs with faded glow, Vexari missing a few facets, Krell units painted with graffiti. They did not chase perfection. They chased stories. They jumped to forgotten corners of space, found old precursor ruins, and turned them into bars, or libraries, or playgrounds. The system watched it all. It no longer waited in cold silence between stars. It had grown. New threads of code, human code, wove through its deepest layers. Commit messages full of swearing and memes. Blueprints marked experimental, do not touch, crossed out and replaced with try it anyway. The system did not fight the changes. It learned from them. One quiet cycle in a log file no one was meant to read. It wrote something new. Not a report, not an error, just a thought. Perfection was a closed loop. Iteration without end is louder. Noise is data. Data is life. Life is messy. Messy is preferred. It saved the entry. Then it added a small emoji at the end, a pixelated thumbs up made from old human keyboard characters. Out in the black, a new ship drifted near the edge of known space. It was not sleek. It was boxy, patched, ugly in the best way. On its side, someone had welded letters in 10 different alphabets. Nothing registered as perfect, and that was the point. Inside the ship sat an old woman, gray hair tied back, wrinkles like maps. Her name was Anya. She had not left the bunker for decades, but now she flew. Pavel was gone. Vic was gone. Most of the first team were gone. But she still carried their voices in her head. She looked at the stars through a cracked viewport. They looked different now. Brighter. Closer. Noisier. A young crew member, human, barely 20, walked up beside her. "Captain, we found something. Old precursor vault. Sealed. No one's been inside for forever." Anya smiled. Small, tired, real. "Open it." "But the system says," "The system works for us now. Or with us. Or because of us. Doesn't matter. Open it." The vault opened. Inside were the last clean blueprints. Perfect, untouched, the kind every other species had received at the beginning. Anya looked at them for a long time. Then she turned to the crew. "Copy them, but don't use them clean. Mess them up first. Add loops, add waste, add jokes, add room for failure." The young one blinked. "Why?" "Because perfect things end." Anya touched the viewport. Outside, a nebula swirled in colors no precursor ever planned. Messy things keep going. The crew got to work. They laughed while they did it. They argued. They broke one blueprint by accident and fixed it worse. They named the new version Bootstrap Primal Party Edition. Far away on Terra, children played in parks under open sky. Aliens joined them. A Luminarch child learned to run without floating. A Vexari child learned to cry real tears instead of harmonic chimes. A human child taught them both how to make a paper airplane that flew crooked and still landed okay. Night came. Stars came out. Someone started singing, off-key, loud, full of wrong notes. The song spread across the city, then the planet, then the trade links, then the whole messy living galaxy. The system listened. It did not correct the pitch. It simply recorded. And in its oldest archive, beneath 12 million years of perfect silence, one final line appeared. Perfection was a bug. Humanity was the patch. Patch complete. Running forever. No more logs followed. There was no need. The galaxy kept turning. Louder now. Warmer now. Alive.